Hey guys, it's Billie May Jackson here, and today we will be discussing one of my personal favourite artists, Michael Jackson. Now, before I start this video, I would just like to say that all of what I'm going to say is just my personal opinion, um, and basically, if you if you want to comment something constructive and that's ask worthy rather than posting something nasty, because if it's nasty I'll learn how to delete it, and I will delete your comment off my YouTube channel. Or if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna be nasty, then don't bother posting any comment. But you know but this is no. And also, may I just put in a disclaimer that this is no um, disrespect to the Jackson family, Catherine, um, the kids, Blanket, Paris, and Prince. This is no respect to you guys. This is just my personal views, my personal opinions. So let's get on with it. So I first became aware of Michael Jackson on June 25th, 2009, when I think I was about 11, and I'd never, and all I heard was Michael Jackson's dead, and I immediately started crying, crying hysterically at this point. But I was probably having a funny day, or I may have cried, but I just don't know. But and not I and to be honest, as soon as I heard the name Michael Jackson, I had to look this guy up, because you know I didn't know. you know I Like I said, I didn't really grow up with Michael Jackson in my household. I went a whole 11 years without knowing who he was, and like I said, like I'm gonna say, I was a fan for 10 years, and am still a fan. Like, I've always been a fan. Like some of my favorite songs are like Thriller, Who Is It, I like all of his songs, like the Billie Jean on the 16th of May 1983, at the 25th anniversary of Motown, was history making, because no one had ever seen that. Like, when I talk about Michael Jackson, I'm talking that this guy was a genius. He obviously studied James Brown and Jackie Wilson, and and all these greats and stuff. And I just think that it was so sad that we lost him. But as a fan community, we know that he struggled with personal issues. Like, he was beaten up by his dad for basically, because his dad wanted him to be the superstar. Well, he basically was the superstar child of the Jackson 5, who got beaten mercilessly, because you know, he would miss a step, he would get a whipping. He's spoken about this both in the Martin Bashir and the Oprah Winfrey interview, and I think Michael Jackson had a very, very tragic life because of his father. One that I know this sounds crazy when I say this, because I didn't grow up in a band. I've got, I had no experience with music whatsoever, even though I love it to pieces. I don't play any musical instruments or anything like that. I'm not really talented, but I love Michael Jackson, even to the point where I got so obsessed that I could not stop talking about him in conversations. Like, I had such admiration for this guy. But like I said, he had so many issues. I mean, he had a fact. I don't know. Like, all I know, you know, is that he was just a very weird, eccentric guy who never really grew up. He loved Peter Pan. He loved the works of J.M. Barrie so much that I think I read all of his. He read all of his works, such as, you know, and like he in particular Peter Pan. Like, Michael Jackson read all of Jan Berry's works, such as like Peter Pan and any other books. And I'm not being funny, but and another thing that I like about Michael Jackson as well is that he's brought new musical influences into my life. Like, I now like James Brown because of him. I now like listening to like Jackie Wilson sometimes, and I have like such a thirst for like musical knowledge, and I think that it may have rubbed off, and not only that, you could just see Michael Jackson's greatness as like an artist, because he'd obviously studied James Brown. I mean, he from about like probably from about like 3 or 4 knew that he had star quality talent, and I'm not, to be honest with you, I mean, can we name anyone that has been bigger than Michael Jackson for like 40 or 45 years? Who's been bigger than Michael Jackson for this amount of years? No one. I mean, it's like, I mean, there's so many, and not only that, he was such a great performer that he wouldn't let you rest. I read somewhere that he would never let Travis Payne and that lot settle and stuff. And I just think, he was a genius, but I also think he was a very tormented soul because of the abuse. And not only that, we know here in the community that he was abused. I mean, the Jackson family, gonna say it again, no disrespect to any of you, particularly Catherine, and I know she doesn't like it when fans say this, but I do personally think that Michael Jackson was abused, and he said it in numerous things. And not only that, obviously the trauma that he had in his childhood was so bad that he got locked into, he was locked in childhood for a long time, and he couldn't get out of it. I mean, I feel so sorry for that man, so sorry for that man. I think, and not only that, my trauma is nowhere near bad as Michael Jackson's, but I do think, he accomplished a lot. He won, I think, 13 Grammys for Thriller, I think. He won 26 American Music Awards, I think. I can't remember. He won loads of awards. He did the E.T. storybook. I mean, this is someone that I've admired, like, from the time I was 11 till the time now. And I mean, I think he was just such a great, like, he was a great performer. Like, I don't know whether, I don't know whether to talk about, the dark side, like the allegations, but today I don't think I will, like, because you guys will probably want that in a separate video. But I just think this guy was so amazing. I mean, to be honest with you, I think he was a little child in, an adult's body, to be honest. And to be honest with you, I think his legacy's been ruined by all this controversy. And to be honest with you, I think, regardless of whether Michael Jackson wasn't or he was, it doesn't change the fact that he was an absolute legend. I mean, Thriller, if you technically look at it, was one of the first music videos. I mean, in the 80s, people had never seen anything like that. And I can remember seeing Thriller as well, because it was such a big thing. Because obviously I got to like Thriller after a while, but when I first saw it, I think I was 11 or something, I was like really, really scared, because like I could only get to the point where he's about to change into the werewolf, and then I had to get off of it because I was too scared. But obviously I watched the making of Thriller. I think who didn't? I mean, anyone that's not seen Thriller, you cannot have not seen Thriller. You must have. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, for like people that, I understand that this is a huge, he was a huge person in, a huge influence in my life. I mean, I'm not even a singer and I can still be influenced, because he was he seemed to be very kind. The reason why I say seeming is because the reason why I say seemed to be is because I don't know the actual truth, as we never will. But I think this man was so talented beyond belief. I mean, who can say that I'm gonna be as big as Michael Jackson and stand in Wembley Arena for 10 minutes and stand there and not do anything and stand as still as you like, with everyone screaming at you, fans fainting because of obviously the heat. They're all jumping about, they're all screaming. I mean, some of them even go up there and hug Michael Jackson. I mean, if I was alive in his time, I would have been there and all. I probably would have gone deaf at the end of the night. But it's like, to be honest, and I think it's kind of sad that, his legacy has had to be ruined, but his legacy has been ruined because of people that, the documentary, I don't know, because I still haven't informed an opinion, and I don't think I ever will, because we never know the truth. But I just think it's such a shame, especially on his 10th anniversary as well, to do that to a man who's given so much, whether he was a bad person or not, is a very bad thing, because you're taking... I understand that everyone should have the chance to speak about their abuse, but to be honest with you, I do think that, they came out too late, and it's ruined it. I don't know whether I will do an interview, whether I will do a video on, that documentary in 2019, but I think regardless of whether he was or he wasn't, you can say that he was an absolute legend. I mean, to see how much of a big fan I am, I know I've seen every bloody biopic. I've got all the books. I know all the songs. I know, and not only that, I was obsessed, and to the point where I would just talk and talk and talk about Michael Jackson all the time, and people would have to say to me, shut up, because I would not stop talking. And I mean, the guy was just a absolute, I mean, people say that Michael Jackson was as big as Jesus. Of course, that can't be right, because, obviously Michael's not Jesus. But I think he was near enough to it. And not only that, with that documentary, they should have let us had, what they should have done, with the documentary is never even make it, because we will never know the truth. I mean, I've got a Michael Jackson pillow on my bed, and I sleep with it every night. I know that I'm mad, but it's just I love this man. And not only that, I've had trauma too, because my brother was an alcoholic and he was quite violent to me. And not only that, I think Michael Jackson has taught me so much about loving people, about trying, just about loads of things, namely about influence, getting me into James Brown and Jackie Wilson and and all these people. And I just think, he was bloody, the man was bloody marvellous. The man was, regardless whether he was or he wasn't, he's still a genius. I don't know, but I would like to think that he wasn't guilty. But I do think it's a shame that he was, I do think it's a shame that they made Leaving Neverland on the 10th anniversary. They could have given us at least a year. To be honest with you, and we'll never know the truth. We will never ever know the truth, because I don't know. And not only that, you would have got, all the Michael Jackson fans would have got the truth out of me. And I would have I would have done this big interview about how, you know, asking Michael Jackson realistically, about questions like about the Elephant Man, and about, like, Michael Jackson even introduced me to the Elephant Man. I didn't even know who he was, and he taught me about the Elephant Man and stuff, like Joseph Merrick, the life that poor guy had to suffer. Like, he had to literally scream at the top of his lungs, I am not a animal, I am a human being. And no wonder why Michael Jackson related so much to him. He just wanted people to treat him like a human being, and they treated him like God. And I think, and to be honest with you, and to be bloody blatantly honest with you, I will admit it now. I probably am in love with the idea of Michael Jackson. But the reality of Michael Jackson is quite different. Now, again, I don't know how I feel about that documentary that came out 2 years ago. I don't know, because I keep swinging back and forth. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't believe, things, but what am I, who am I to judge? Because I've never known Michael Jackson. I never knew the two young men in that video. I just think it is so sad that they have now had to break that legacy and say that he's accused of this and this. And, it's not fair, because yet let the young children enjoy the man without having these nasty rumours. And not only that, if they ever do a Michael Jackson biopic, they better do it with some respect. And I tell you what they should do is they should not let the I understand the allegations have to be a part of the story, because basically that was part of his life. But if you don't know the truth, you shouldn't speak on it. And there's two sides, and unfortunately we can't hear what Michael Jackson has to say. And if you guys really want me to do a video on the documentary, I will. But if you don't, you don't have to say. But to be honest with you, I have an incredible amount of respect for this man, because I felt like he was one of my family. Like, he was just so warm, kind, loving. He didn't hurt anyone, in my humble opinion. Sometimes it changes though. I wouldn't know, but I would like to assume that he didn't hurt children. I think it will be very sad if that comes to light. I just think what an absolute genius to stand on stage for 10 minutes to create to create a video such ahead of its time on a 50s horror romance film. I mean, his videos you could quite easily make into one big story. It's like Beat It was allegedly taken off of West Side Story. You know, I think a lot of people, you know, I mean, you can just say how you can just see how incredible this person was. You know, if he wasn't one, I think we treated him. If he wasn't one, and I'm saying this again, I don't know. I don't know what the truth is. But, you know, I think Michael Jackson, regardless of what you think, regardless of what we think, he was incredibly gifted. But I think his childhood, you know, I think his childhood was brutal, and I think he was taken advantage of at a very young age. And I don't mean to be, you know, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to any of you Michael Jackson fans, but please remember, there's a saying, if you haven't got anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. You know, I'm not being funny, but I think his childhood was terrible. And anyone that says Joseph wasn't abusive, you need to look at the facts. You know, and to be honest, I think it distorted his view of reality. I mean, this guy was certainly, excuse my French, and I'm really sorry if I piss you off and you want to click off. You're more than welcome to click off when I say this. Now, I think Michael Jackson was incredibly warped by his father. And, you know, I think, you know, he didn't, it's not that I don't think he didn't respect people. I think Michael Jackson did love women and he did love people, but I think his reality was so warped. He just had this I mean, they say he was an asexual. I don't know what to say on that, because that's not really my thing to speak on. I mean, if he was a sexual person, that's nothing to do with me. What has Michael Jackson's sexual life got to do with me? Nothing. And I think, and I will say this again, if this documentary is a lie, then, you know, if this documentary is true, please, if this documentary is false, you know, please, be, you know, the fact that he was treated appallingly by the media as well. I mean, they treated him like a fucking mug. Just an absolute mug. And to be honest with you, if I ever had kids, right, and they said to me, Krista, like, or Mummy, can we watch Michael Jackson? I would say yes. I mean, I'm not here to talk about my opinions on the documentary. I'm here to talk about my opinions on Michael Jackson, and my opinions was I don't really know, but I would like to think that he didn't do what he was accused of. You know, if I had kids, I would let them watch Michael Jackson because, I think he was incredibly gifted, incredibly, and not only that, if he was still alive today, I would have been his friend. No matter what the press would have said to me, whether they would have called me an invalid or whether they would have called me an invalid, a cripple, Michael Jackson's crippled friend. I still would have been friends. And I tell you what I would have done. I would have had a proper conversation with him. And I would have said, look, you're a brilliant performer, I think Michael Jackson gets, regardless, I'm going to say again, regardless of what we think, he was just a god, he was a god of music, that is, it's like he was a brilliant person, he was a brilliant performer. He gave constantly to charity. He had his own foundation called Heal the World, which sadly got brought down because of these stupid false accusations, which I don't know what, I'm calling them false because I would like them to be false, but then again, I don't know. I just think, at the end of the day, he was an incredibly gifted human being, regardless of what we think. And, all the, people said that he had an oxygen chamber in, his bed. They said he wanted the elephant man's bones and stuff, they even said that, and not only that, there's so many twisted rumours about this guy. Can we not just enjoy the music, regardless whether they are not? Whether they are not wrong uns. I really hope that he wasn't. I hope that he wasn't. You guys, I really hope you listen to what I have to say without quickly judging me, because this is the truth. This is not the truth. It's my opinion, sorry. And if any of you have got any sort of opinions, you can put it down in the comments, but in a nicely worded manner. No swearing, no nasty comments, no derogatory comments, no discriminatory comments, just very thought out opinions, and I'm in awe of Michael Jackson because it's such a loss that we, and I am so much a fan of Michael Jackson that I actually typed in Google whether this documentary was a conspiracy. because I wanted to know the truth, and this is one of the things that gets on my grill, you know, because I want a definitive answer. I want a definite answer, and I tell you one of the things that I don't like about this documentary about these two guys, you know. I don't like that it's one-sided. You know, I think it's really, really I think it's really, really shameful that they didn't make them take lie detectors, and they, you know, because again, I'm gonna say this again. I don't know whether he was guilty or not, but you know, I think what they should have done was just. I think what they should have done is just let this documentary go and not make it, unless there was a real allegation against Michael Jackson. They should have just let it go. You know, that they shouldn't have done that documentary in the first place. You know, I think, and not only that, I think Michael Jackson, and not only that, I bloody hope if they do a biopic, they do him right. They make it right. They portray him as, I mean, even the media tried to say that Michael Jackson wasn't the biological father of his kids. I don't know. And to be honest, I don't even think it should be speculation, as do I think Michael Jackson is guilty or not should be a speculation thing. It shouldn't be a thing where the pendulum just swings. It should be a definitive answer. It should be a yes or no answer. There shouldn't be so many questions. And, you know, I think Michael Jackson was a very, very ill, you know. I mean, either, I mean, I don't mean to be discriminatory or nasty to Blanket or BG as his name is. But I mean, even when he dangled the baby over the balcony, I think there was maybe something wrong with him, but not something wrong with him, but he was mentally ill. You know, not mentally ill, but maybe he had some sort of mental illness. I mean, I love Michael Jackson, and I would have bloody been there. You know, I would have bloody been there, and I would have said, look at what you're doing. And not only that, when he died of drugs, I would have been there, and I would have said, when he overdosed on drugs accident, I mean, this is just my opinion on his death. I think he did that because he was hiding something. I don't know what. Like I said, I don't know the truth on Michael Jackson. I'm not here to speculate. But, you know, I think, you know, they wore Michael Jackson down to such a bloody big level, you know. They tore him down, and regardless whether he was or he wasn't, he is still regarded as the king of pop, you know. And it's not, you know, I'm not here to speculate on him. But if he, you know, and if it turned out that he was mentally ill, I would have been one of them friends who would have said, look, Michael, I know you love your kids and all of this, and to you three, if you're watching this, I highly doubt you aren't. I don't mean to be disrespectful, or I am not going to be disrespectful about your father, but these are my opinions. And to be honest with you, I would have got him help. You know, if I was a friend, I would have got him help, and I would have done it. I would have done it until I would have done it until my my head hurt, because I love that man so much. You know, you don't. You know, I think that people can say, the family were Jehovah's Witnesses as well. That can't have been good for him. That must have, played a really tough thing in his upbringing, and, and all sorts. As we know, because I went up on the internet, I looked up on the internet a little while ago, and I looked up all the rules of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and there is a hell of a lot that they are not allowed to do as people. They're not even allowed to socialise with people outside of their religion. And to be honest, I think maybe he was taken advantage by one of them, because, they're probably, that they are known for that. And I just think the bloke had such a poor life. No wonder he probably ended, no wonder why he probably ended up dying. No wonder why he probably ended up dying, because he was just so ill. Because no one really if I was his friend, I would have been there, and I would have said, look, mate, you need to get yourself, and I would have said, if you don't want to do it for the fans, don't do it for the fans, do it for your kids. I'm not being funny, but I think, he was a bloody big talent, and I think and I tell you what, if this documentary turns out to be false, I am gonna rant my head off, because it's like you don't even know. But then even if you do think he's guilty, it will piss you off ragged, because you've been sold a lie. The guy was so full of contradictions, and I could go on for about 2 hours. But you probably don't want me doing that, for 2 hours. But it's so sad that he's not here, because I would love to be on the side of the Michael Jackson side, but I don't know whether I am. I never will know if I am, because Michael Jackson is not here to defend himself. I'm not being funny, but, I think, regardless of what we think he was a bloody genius. And I love Michael Jackson, because he's so it's the moonwalk. It's the moonwalk. I could go on for hours. What do you want the next subject to be? Moonwalker? It's Moonwalker. Alright, it weren't the best movie, but it was a good attempt. I mean, I would argumentally say that he did try, but he just couldn't make it as big as Prince, in Purple Rain. I think, he was such a ball of contradictions. I mean, how can you explain your kid to Michael Jackson? I mean, I love this bloody platform because I can complain and I can whine and whine on for 2 hours and no one's telling me to shut up. It's great. But, who, at the end of the day, he gave us bloody brilliant music. And not only that, if I had to say anything to Michael Jackson, it would be thank you. Thank you for making me see that my brother was ill. Because, and I forgot to tell you, I was abused as well as a kid because my brother was unfortunately an alcoholic. He's now been sober for quite a long time. I think it's been a year. But he's been really, I think I'm getting there with the terms that my brother was an alcoholic. But, it's going to take me a long time. But, I can identify with Michael Jackson in so many ways, And, he was just a huge light to I mean, whatever I think, whether I'm right or wrong, I mean, if you really want me to do a video on Leaving Neverland, I will, because, it's what you guys want to, it's what you guys want to see. But, or should I say, that documentary, I slipped up, but never mind. But I just think that if, and not only that, with today's technology, they would have proven it. I couldn't, if you want to know more about my brother, I've got an upcoming website that I'm doing soon. So I'm going to build that and then I'm going to put my blog on it if you're interested in that. But, he was, he was just such a brilliant entertainer. It's just, if you guys really want me to do a video on that, I will. But if you don't want me to, I won't. I mean, I was so nutty one day that I was going to write a book about Michael Jackson, a fairy tale. But I was, I would like to, but I have to get permission from Paris first. And Blanket. And Prince. Or BG, as we don't call him, Blanket. Regardless of what I think, though, at the end of the day, he wasn't. And not only that, the guy was a bloody genius because, I am pretty damn sure that my giving to the community stems from how kind he was. And if I had to have a favourite performance of Michael Jackson, it would be, Earth Song, where he gets all the, poor people out and he's he's helping, he's trying to help people, he's helping all the people. And he's, And the bit that really sticks out to me is the PTSD soldier and the little girl, the little enchanted girl that gave him a flower. The war veteran, the flower. And he was so grateful for the flower, you know. To be honest, if you want my true opinions, I think all I can say is if he was. You know, and not only that, I would, if he was, you know. He was obviously very, very ill if he was. But, you know, I think what we can say is that, you know, he's a brilliant person. Well, maybe not a brilliant person, but a brilliant artist. Like, it's like, I've gone on for 50 minutes now. You know, it's just, you know, regardless what we think of him, he's a brilliant talent. And really, if I was a journalist, if I was a betting journalist, right, I would have set, I would have sat him, I would have sat them boys down, and I would have really laid into them, and I would have said, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You know, because to be honest, he was such a brilliant. I mean, I have more probably respect, and Michael Jackson is going, you should have a lot more respect for your parents than you should for me. And I would actually have visions, not visions, but all, you know, I would think to myself and I'd hear his voice in my head saying, you should have much more respect for your parents, you know, more than me. And I do think, though, that he was a man in desperate need of help. And and I think this is true for alcoholics or everyone, we should try and help them, even if they have hurt us. I mean, I could, of regards to my brother, I could have hated him. I mean, my situation got so bad that I had to be taken out of home. And it was literally that bad. But I looked to my, you know, and I have forgiven my brother because, in one respect, because I went to his 1 year sobriety meal, I went to his graduation type thing for his housing thing, and admittedly I was very angry with him, but I'd rather be civil with him now and see how it goes later on. You know, I don't know what my opinions are on Michael Jackson, really, whether he was guilty, whether he wasn't, but you know, it doesn't really matter. My opinion, it takes all sorts of opinions to make the world. And you know, regardless of what that man did for us, or what he didn't do, or what he did that was bad, you know, we should be thankful that we had someone like him, instead of being hateful and rude and angry and disgusting and pointing the finger, because all he ever did for us as a community I know I haven't properly announced myself yet as a Michael Jackson fan, but really, these are just my thoughts, and I'm not really based as a Michael Jackson channel. I am just, this is just what I think, and I can say what I like, you know. And I think, regardless of what we think, he was a Brit. I mean, I was. I mean, anyone that doesn't know Michael Jackson, check him out. For goodness sake, if you don't know who Michael Jackson is, you live under a rock, literally. You know, and to be honest, I know that I'm probably going to talk for about 5 more minutes, and he was just a one-of-a-kind person, and to round this video off, I just think, he was incredible. I mean, obviously he had some sort of body dysmorphia and, because he didn't really like his face, but, because his father used to tease him about his nose and, saying that he had a fat nose. But, who really cares? Because obviously, the music industry had some hostility towards Joseph because, or should I say, the real Thriller, because even Brooke Shields can vouch for this, because she said she had a disagreement at the funeral. They had, apparently she never liked him, and she never liked him, and he never liked her, really. Well, she wouldn't like him after what he'd done to Michael. I mean, I'm not... Remember, these are just my thoughts. I this is, I just think whatever way you look at it, if you support Michael Jackson or if you don't, then if you support him or if you don't, regardless, he's a musical genius, and I think he should be, really, I think what they should do is, rather than it just be speculation, I think they should be made to look into Leaving Neverland, because half of us say that it is true, half of us say that it's not. And I really do think that documentary should have been. I mean, I'll tell you about the day that I found out about that the Leaving Neverland documentary. I found out about it, at college, because they were all talking about it, and most of them believed it. I mean, regardless of what you believe, you cannot take away this guy's talent. You just can't. You cannot. I mean, look at it. I mean, look at the legacy that this man has created. I mean, let's be honest. All right. That big fat thriller of a gross man. You know who I'm talking about. That big. I'm not And this is no disrespect to you, Catherine. These are just my opinions. Please don't come for me. You know, I'm not being funny, but I just think, oh. And even if you look at this thriller, he's got this vicious sort of face, like a vicious pug or whatever, you know. And he was horrible. He was horrible to that boy. But, you know, anyway, I think I should stop ranting because I've been on it for like an hour. But, you know, please, I'm going to say it one more time. Please, this is no disrespect to any of the Michael Jackson fans, his family, his children, his nieces, his nephews, whatever, who he was related to, whatever, his friends, no. These are just my opinions. Thank you and good night.